Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz. This is Ron's Rundown, where we go over the MLB game schedule for Sunday, July 21st, 2024. And if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comment section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, including my daily rundown best bet in the MLB, as well as my Christmas in July special on my yearly package, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at pickdawgz.com. There's also a link in the description. Alrighty, here we go. Here are the games for the Sunday card in Major League Baseball. First up, we see the Minnesota Twins taking on the Milwaukee Brewers. Aaron Civale and Joe Ryan are your starters. Because Civale has not pitched too well on the road this season with an ERA at 6.23. Now, his first game as a Brewer was on the road against the Los Angeles Dodgers, and it was 5 innings of 3 home run, 4 earned run baseball in an 8-5 Brewers loss. And I think Minnesota, especially in the last month, a really tough lineup to face for a righty or lefty. I think Civale could be in trouble here, especially with the home run ball. Joe Ryan's been a little bit shaky in his last couple of starts, but I still think he's a very good option in this Twins rotation. I like this Twins bullpen. Give me Minnesota in this one on the money line. Next up, we see the Tampa Bay Rays taking on the New York Yankees. Shane Baz and Marcus Stroman are your starters. Both of these starting pitchers faced the opposition in the series before the All-Star break, where Stroman went 4 1/3 innings, 2 runs. It wasn't his best start. It wasn't his worst start. Definitely a step in the right direction after the game against the Reds, the previous start, where he gave up 5 earned runs and 3 home runs. And, Stroman, while I'd like to see him miss some more bats, it was nice to see him get out of a few jams in that game. And the Yankees, of course, went on to win 2-1. Shane Baz, on the other side, his team won. The Rays beat the Yankees 5-4 in his start, but he wasn't the greatest in that one. 4 1/3 innings, 3 earned runs, 2 home runs as well. We know Baz has great strikeout stuff, but he does give up a lot of sharp contact, at least so far. The expected numbers aren't the best. The expected ERA pretty steep because of a lot of sharp contact given up. For me, I think the Yankees lineup is just a lot more superior against the right-handed pitching this season, and I like the Yankees in this spot at home. I haven't really backed Stroman too often this year, but in this situation, we're actually getting a pretty good price with him and the Yankees at Yankee Stadium. So give me the Yanks in this one on the money line. Next up, we see the Cincinnati Reds taking on the Washington Nationals. Andrew Abbott and Jake Irvin are your starters. Both starting pitchers did not have their best outings in their last starts before the All-Star break. Abbott, 3 1/3 against the Marlins. It was 5 earned runs, 2 home runs, but the Reds still wanted to win that game. And in fact, he has been a winning machine recently for Cincinnati. Very profitable option. They've won his last 5 games and 7 of his last 8 as well. On the other side, Jake Irvin, he had a couple of bad starts in his last 2 before the All-Star break. It was 10 innings combined of 18 base hit, 12 earned run, 4 home run baseball in a 7-5 and 9-3 blowout loss for Washington. Now, both of those games were on the road. Irvin's been pretty solid at home this year, but for me, I like the Reds lineup a little bit more right now. I do think Abbott is a superior starting pitcher, and I'm going to roll with the Cincinnati Reds in this game in a lean here. Not my favorite game on the board, but I'll go with the Reds on the money line. Next up, we see the Philadelphia Phillies taking on the Pittsburgh Pirates. Tyler Phillips and Marco Gonzalez are your starters. For me, this game on paper looks a lot like the first game of this series, where I just think the value lies with Pittsburgh. As Marco Gonzalez, it was nice that he was able to get a start in before the All-Star break. He returned from injury. He only had 3 starts before that game. And against the White Sox, 5 innings, 1 run, in a 4-1 Pirates win. I know it's the White Sox, but the Philadelphia Phillies are right around league average against lefties in the last month. I think Gonzalez pitches pretty well in this game. Phillips on the other side, it wasn't his best outing to end the first half of the season. 4 earned runs, 2 home runs against the Oakland Athletics. We know the Pirates have really improved their offense against righties recently, and in the month of July, really, and so in the bullpen as well in the last month, right around the Phillies in terms of the expected numbers, and a much better ERA to go with it. Give me the Pirates in this one on the money line. Next up, we see the St. Louis Cardinals taking on the Atlanta Braves. We're going to see Miles Mikolas and Spencer Schwellenbach as your starters. Schwellenbach originally was supposed to pitch on Friday. That game got postponed due to weather. They had the Saturday doubleheader, but he didn't pitch in either of those games. So now he's set to go on Sunday afternoon. And I mentioned I liked him in that matchup on Friday. I like him in this spot as well. Schwellenbach, his first couple of starts at the major league level were not great, but he's really improved since those tough outings, and his expected numbers are strong. He's been excellent in the month of July thus far. 13 innings. He's got a 1.38 ERA, 2 victories for Atlanta, 5-1 and 6-1 over solid teams in the Phillies and the Padres. I think Schwellenbach pitches well. I think the Braves can get to Miles Mikolas, who gave up 4 home runs in his last start of the first half. I'm going to go with the Atlanta Braves in this game on the money line. Next up, we see the Detroit Tigers taking on the Toronto Blue Jays. Kiter Montero and Kevin Gausman are your starters. The first 2 starts of the season for Montero were pretty ugly. 8 2/3 innings, 9 earned runs, 3 home runs. But so far in the month of July, in 17 and 2/3, Montero's pitched well. The Tigers are 3-0 in his first 3 starts of July, all against winning teams, the Twins, Guardians, and Dodgers, teams that are currently in playoff spots. And he's got a 3.57 ERA in the month of July. I think he pitches pretty well in this game. Gausman's not pitched well at Rogers Center at all this year. A big time losing record at 1-5, ERA in the 7.19. And Detroit, we've mentioned they've improved offensively. I like their offense more in this matchup right now. I like their bullpen more right now. The Blue Jays bullpen in the last month, dead last in xFIP with a ERA of 5.49. Give me the Tigers in this game on the money line. Next up, the New York Mets taking on the Miami Marlins. Christian Scott and Trevor Rogers are your starters. Trevor Rogers has pitched a lot better recently. His last 5 games, 3 earned runs or fewer in all 5 of those starts. However, this is a tough matchup. The Mets in the last month, number 3 in team OPS, WRC+, and isolated power against left-handed pitching. So I do think that the Mets can get to Rogers for a few runs. And Christian Scott's pitched well. He's got a 4.36 ERA, a 1.1 WHIP. He's somebody, those types of numbers are pretty solid for somebody that wasn't really expected to be in the rotation or be a huge contributor in the rotation at the beginning of the season. So I think Scott's good enough in this game for the Mets to go on to win it. Give me New York on the money line in this one, but not my favorite game on the board. Next up, we see the San Diego Padres taking on the Cleveland Guardians. Michael King and Ben Lively are your starters. Ben Lively's pitched well overall this season with a 3.58 ERA, but recently we are starting to see the regression signs. He's given up a lot of sharp contact, at least 1 home run in 4 of his last 5 starts, and 2 or more home runs in 3 of his last 5. So, it hasn't been pretty recently. Now, some of those games were on the road, and he's been better at home this year, but still, I think the Padres can get to Lively for a few runs and potentially a few home runs early in this start. Michael King has pitched really well on the road, a 6-2 record, sub-3 ERA. He's in good form. He ended the first half of the season with 3 straight 1-run performances. I'm going to go to San Diego Padres in this game on the money line. Next up, we see the Chicago White Sox taking on the Kansas City Royals. Drew Thorpe and Seth Lugo are your starters. Seth Lugo has faced the White Sox twice this year. He pitched really well in both of those games. Now, the first start, the White Sox were able to get a good amount of base runners on him in that start. He gave up, quite a few base hits, but he was able to get out of all those jams. Then he faced them pretty soon after that first game. He faced them on April 4th and then April 15th. In the second start, he was actually better than the first game. He was 7 innings of shutout ball. He only had 4 strikeouts, but we know Lugo, not necessarily a strikeout-dependent guy. He's somebody that can limit sharp contact. He throws a bunch of different pitches and usually keeps hitters guessing at the plate. And he's been excellent this year, the 2.48 ERA. I think he pitches well against a weak White Sox lineup. And Drew Thorpe, he's actually had a pretty good rookie campaign. Recently, he's in great form after a tough start to his major league career. He's had 4 straight quality starts in those last 4 games. So I automatically lean towards the under. But in the end, I trust the Royals lineup and bullpen more in this game. So I got to go with the Royals on the run line. I think they do enough here to win this game and cover the run line. Next up, we see the Arizona Diamondbacks taking on the Chicago Cubs. Brandon Pfaadt and Shota Imanaga are your starters. Brandon Pfaadt's faced the Cubs a few times in his career so far, and he's pitched well against them, and that includes the start this year. It was 7 innings of 2 earned run ball, 3 total runs, so quality start for Pfaadt in that one. He's in good form. The Diamondbacks have won 4 of his last 5 starts. They've won 4 in a row, 4 of his last 5, 5 of his last 6, so he's been a pretty profitable starting pitcher recently. I think he pitches well against the Cubs lineup. It's been rather inconsistent this year. Imanaga, we know he had an amazing start to the season. Now that ERA just below 3 at 2.97. He's been a little bit shaky recently. He ended the first half with a strong performance against Baltimore, but I still think the Diamondbacks are a tough lineup to face for any lefty. They have a pretty low strikeout rate against lefties overall this year. I like the Diamondbacks in this game on the money line on the road. Next up, the Baltimore Orioles taking on the Texas Rangers. Dean Kramer and Andrew Heaney are your starters. Andrew Heaney had one of his best starts of the season against these Orioles back on June 30th. It was 7 innings, a 2-run ball with 10 strikeouts, no walks, no home runs, and an 11-2 Rangers win. Heaney pitched well against Baltimore last year in the postseason, and that was something that Kramer struggled with, was against these Rangers in the American League Division Series. He gave up in an inning and 2/3, 7 base hits and 6 earned runs at Globe Life Field in a 7-1 Rangers blowout win. So for me, I got to roll the Rangers in this game. Their bullpen's improved. I know the Orioles had a big start to this series, but I like Texas in this one on the money line at home. Next up, we see the San Francisco Giants taking on the Colorado Rockies. Jordan Hicks and Austin Gomber are your starters. At one point, the Giants were absolutely crushing left-handed pitching. they've fallen off a bit recently, below league average in ISO and OPS in the last month. And when you look at Austin Gomber, he had an amazing start to the season. He fell off a little bit and towards the end of the first half, but in his last 2 games of the first half of the season, really his last 3 games, he put together some pretty competitive outings, and he was able to win. The Rockies were able to win 2 of those 3 starts. He's at a sub-4 ERA at course this season. I think he pitches well enough. I think the Rockies get him some run support against Jordan Hicks, who really had a great start to the year, but the regression concerns are there. The expected numbers aren't the best. And for me, pitching at Coors Field, not necessarily the best place for a starter like Jordan Hicks. The Giants have lost each of his last 4 games. Now, he pitched at Coors earlier this year, and he went 5 innings, a 3-run ball. Not miserable, but 7 base hits and 2 walks to go with it. I got to go with the Rockies in this game on the money line. Next up, we see the LA Angels taking on the Oakland Athletics. Carson Fulmer and Joey Estes are your starters. Estes has been a completely different pitcher at home versus on the road. On the road in 34 2/3 innings, he's got an 8.05 ERA, a 296 opponent's batting average, 7 home runs given up as well, and 13 walks to go with it. At home in 28 1/3 innings, a 2-0 record, sub-2 ERA at 1.91, 182 opponent's batting average, only 1 home run given up. The strikeout numbers aren't the best, but he only has 2 walks given up as well. I think he's a better option in this game. I like the way the Oakland A's offense has been actually recently. They've been a lot more competitive at the dish. It's disappointing to see Jacob Wilson, one of their top prospects, go down with an injury in his first major league game, but the future's not looking too bad for the Oakland A's right now, and a lot of their young guys starting to hit, and some of their veterans as well, like Miguel Andujar, starting to contribute. I'm going to go with the A's in this one on the money line. Next up, we see the Houston Astros taking on the Seattle Mariners. Ronel Blanco and Brian Wu are your starters. 2 very good starting pitching options in this game, but for me, the game boils down to I trust the Astros lineup a lot more against the righty right now than I do the Mariners. I mean, the Mariners in the last month against right-handed pitching have been atrocious. The strikeout rate is through the roof. OPS, isolated power, you name it, they have struggled. And even in the first game of this series with Hunter Brown on the mound, he really didn't have his best stuff in that game. His strikeout stuff wasn't the best. His control was starting. He was starting to lose his control at the end of that outing. But he was, the Mariners weren't able to make him pay. There had a few opportunities with runners on base, and they really didn't threaten at all to score in those innings. So for me, when you look at Blanco, he's been one of the better starters in the American League. I think he pitches well. He's been excellent on the road this year. 5-1, 2.45 ERA. Give me the Astros in this game on the money line. Next up, we see the Boston Red Sox taking on the Los Angeles Dodgers. The final game for the Sunday card in Major League Baseball. Cutter Crawford and James Paxton are your starters. Now, we've talked about how the Red Sox numbers against lefties have not been the best this year, especially that strikeout rate has been north of 30% for quite, a majority of the season. But Paxton's not a strikeout guy, at least not anymore. And when you look at his numbers this season, he has 44 walks and 57 strikeouts in 84 1/3 innings. So he walks a lot of guys. He doesn't really miss a lot of bats, and that's why the expected numbers are not great. Now, recently, Paxton's been a lot more competitive, especially in his games at Dodger Stadium. The Dodgers have been able to back him up and win his starts, but with Cutter Crawford on the other side pitching as well as he has on the road, 3-2 record with a 2.35 ERA away from Fenway. For me, I got to go with the Boston Red Sox, and this one getting an excellent price at Dodger Stadium. And that's it. Those are the games for Sunday. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, and put those baseball picks in the comment section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pickdawgz Premium. Don't forget that Christmas in July special for that yearly package. As always, this is Romanelli. Good luck.